Councilman Saleh to the dais. Councilman Saleh to the dais. Okay. Almost there. And like I said, if you can silence your cell phones and please close the back door for me, whoever is in the back row, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much. Okay, good evening, everyone. We are on the record. Today is Wednesday, the 25th day of January in the year 2023. This is a regular meeting of the Jersey City Municipal Council. We had a scheduled 6 p.m. start. The clock on my cell phone is showing 6:03 p.m. May we have a roll call for the commencement of this meeting? Councilperson Ridley.
Here.
Councilperson Prinzeri.
Here.
Councilperson Baggiano.
Yeah.
Councilperson Saleh.
Here.
Councilperson Solomon. Councilperson Gilmore.
Present.
Councilperson DeGise.
Here.
Councilperson Rivera will be absent for the entire meeting, and Council President Waterman.
Here.
We have 8 council members in attendance at 6:03 p.m. Can we kindly rise for a moment of silence, please?
Tamara King.
Remain standing. Thank you very much. On behalf of Council President Waterman, in accordance with the New Jersey Public Laws of 1975, Chapter 231, the Open Public Meetings Act, also known as the Sunshine Law. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by the posting on the bulletin board of the first floor of City Hall, the annual notice, which is the schedule of meetings and caucuses of the Municipal Council for the calendar year 2023, and filed in the office of the City Clerk on Thursday, December 15th, 2022. In addition, at its time of its preparation, the agenda of this meeting was similarly disseminated on Friday, January 20th, 2023 at 2:38 p.m. to the Municipal Council, Mayor, Business Administrator, Corporation Council, and local newspapers, and posted on the city's website, so I can certify as to our total compliance with the Sunshine Law. Okay, council members, before we move on for our regular order of business, there is just one item we need to take care of. I need a motion to add item 10.30, resolution 23-065 to the agenda.
Motion.
Motion made by Councilperson Saleh,
Second.
seconded by Council President Waterman. On the motion to add item 10.30, resolution 23-065 to the agenda, Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzeri.
Aye.
Councilperson Baggiano.
Hold on, I'm just reading it.
Sorry, so I'll read that.
All right, okay.
So it's an aye.
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon. Councilperson Gilmore.
Aye.
Councilperson DeGise. And Council President Waterman. Motion carries 8-0 with Councilperson Rivera absent to add item 10.30, resolution 23-065 to the agenda. And I'll read it into the record. It's a resolution authorizing a closed session of the Municipal Council on Monday, February 6th, 2023 at 3:30 p.m. to discuss personnel and staffing matters. Thank you very much, Council. On to our regular order of business. We're going to start with the first reading ordinances. Item 3.1, City Ordinance 23-005 is an ordinance authorizing the acquisition of Courthouse Administration Building, property located at 595 Newark Avenue, Jersey City, New Jersey, from Hudson County for use as a public park. Item 3.2, City Ordinance 23-006 is an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 2, Traffic Regulations, Section 332-9, Stop Intersections, to designate Marley Avenue and Lexington Avenue as a multi-way control intersection, stop intersection, excuse me. Item 3.3, City Ordinance 23-007 is an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 3, Parking, Standing, and Stopping, amending Section 332-31, Parking Restrictions for Street Cleaning Purposes in Gulls Cove on Marin Boulevard, St. Peters Street, Morris Street, and Sussex Street. Council members, I'm going to be taking the vote on items 3.1 through 3.3. Again, that's items 3.1 through 3.3. Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Baggiano.
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh.
Aye for introduction.
Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson Gilmore.
Aye.
Councilperson DeGise. And Council President Waterman. City ordinances 3.1 through 3.3 are introduced 8-0 with Councilperson Rivera absent. On to our second reading ordinances. First, second reading ordinances. Item 4.1, City Ordinance 23-001 is an ordinance to exceed the calendar year 2023 municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank pursuant to NJSA 40A:4-45.14. This is a public hearing on this ordinance. Any member of the public wishing to be heard, please come up to the podium and state your name for the record. And I see Laverne Washington.
Laverne Webb, Washington. I'm a little confused because I had took some young people to get jobs here in the city for the flag program, and I was told that the budget wasn't passed yet. Is this got anything to do with the budget too for this year? Because they were supposed to get hired this year. They're nice young men, never had no trouble with the city, out of high school, and they need jobs. And they said the budget wasn't passed for you. Is this got anything to do with that budget too?
BA.
Thanks, Ms. Washington. So this is just a procedural matter to allow the city to go past 2.5% increase total in the budget. Doesn't mean it's going to be a tax impact. However, with union negotiations, health cost benefits, sometimes we exceed that 2.5%, but it doesn't necessarily mean that anything's funded or not funded, or if there'll be a tax increase or decrease. It's just simply that you go over a 2.5% threshold overall. So
But this doesn't have nothing to do with the holdup of the hiring of the program that,
no, so we did
Training.
introduce a budget. I'm sorry, we introduced a temporary budget, and then we'll introduce the official budget in March. And then that's when those programs will be funded.
okay, thank you very much.
This is still a public hearing, and I see Gene Daly. Just give me 1 second, Gene. He's nice, that.
Good, Sean.
Okay.
Hi, it's Jean Daly. Good evening. I do have problems with this raising the budget further than 2.5%. You obviously do it ahead of time because you're expecting something. And it's not been said whether it's going to be over 2.5 and or how much it could be over 2.5. This is very disconcerting because it tells me the city does not know how to budget, does not know how to spend properly, or hasn't been keeping track of spending. I do know when you're saying this kind of quasi term about union benefits, this benefits, I do understand that there are back owed union benefits that raise up to almost perhaps potentially $40 million. This tells me this city does not know how to budget. The same thing that happened in December when the emergency funds for the police overtime, another 10 grand, and then another emergency spending of 15 grand. Or no, it's 10 million, excuse me, I'm wrong. 10 million and then 15 million. I'm totally against this cap because it's undefined. It does not say how much and what exactly these benefits would be for. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean.
Thank you. This is still a public hearing on City Ordinance 23-001. Any member of the public still wishing to be heard, please come up to the podium and state your name for the record.
Motion.
Motion made by Council President Waterman
Second.
to close the public hearing on City Ordinance 23-001, and I have a second by Councilperson Saleh. On the motion to close the public hearing on City Ordinance 23-001, Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Bajano.
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson Gilmore.
Aye.
Councilperson DeJeece. And Council President Waterman. Motion carries 8-0 with Councilperson Rivera absent to close the public hearing on City Ordinance 23-001. For final consideration and adoption of City Ordinance 23-001, Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Bajano.
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson Gilmore.
Aye.
Councilperson DeJeece. And Council President Waterman. City Ordinance 23-001 is adopted 8-0 with Councilperson Rivera absent. On to our next second reading ordinance, item 4.2, City Ordinance 23-002 is an ordinance supplementing Chapter 3 of the Municipal Code, Administration of Government, Article 2, Council, Section 6, Annual Audit, and 8, Budget Committee, and Chapter 53, Personnel, Section 8, Hours of Employment for regular employees, requiring reports to the Municipal Council regarding overtime compensation and statutory extension of the date for submission of the budget and annual financial statement or completion of the annual audit. This is a public hearing on this ordinance. Any member of the public wishing to be heard, please come up to the podium and state your name for the record.
Motion.
Second.
Motion to close the public hearing was made by Council President Waterman on City Ordinance 23-002, and I had a second by Councilperson Saleh. To close the public hearing on City Ordinance 23-002, Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary.
I just want to thank Councilman Solomon for taking the concerns that were brought up in caucus during first read to make sure that it's not a heavy administrative burden for whatever departments are involved with this, including the collection of the reports, but also making sure that some of the more sensitive employee information is protected by just having it be year to date. So thank you for addressing that. Aye.
Councilperson Bajano.
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh.
I agree with Councilwoman Mira Prinzari's points. Thank you, Councilman Solomon. We definitely need a tighter grip on our budget and to monitor the overtime. So with that, I vote aye.
Just a reminder, council members, this is to close the public hearing.
Whoops, sorry.
It's okay. Councilperson Solomon.
I vote aye.
Early today, leave him alone.
It's a little early.
Leave him alone.
They let the cat out of the bag a little too soon. It's okay. Councilperson Solomon, did you vote? I'm sorry. Councilperson Gilmore.
Aye.
Councilperson DeJeece. And Council President Waterman.
Aye.
Motion carries 8-0 with Councilperson Rivera absent to close the public hearing on City Ordinance 23-002. For final consideration and adoption of City Ordinance 23-002, Councilperson Ridley.
I believe that all the concerns that we discussed previously were addressed, and the council members got together and made the necessary changes. So with that, I vote aye.
Councilperson Prinzary.
I said during the call to close public hearing still stands. I vote aye.
Councilperson Bajano.
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh.
What Councilwoman Mira Prinzari said, aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
I want to return the thank you to Councilman Prince Airy and all the colleagues for the comments during caucus. It made it a much better ordinance than was originally proposed. And, you know, I think it's a simple, basic idea. It's just more transparency. It is collaborative in the sense of we're working with the administration, we'll be getting reports, and it just keeps us better in the loop, and then hopefully enables us to have a stronger working relationship on the 2023 budget. So with that, I vote aye.
Councilperson Gilmore.
Aye.
Councilperson DeJeece. And Council President Waterman.
Thank Councilman Solomon for introducing the ordinance, and I want to thank the council for really working together on it, because we know the seriousness of the budget, and our whole objective is really to work together for the residents of the city of Jersey City. So with that, I do vote aye.
Thank you. City Ordinance 23-002 is adopted 8-0 with Councilperson Rivera absent. Okay, on to our next second reading ordinance, item 4.3, City Ordinance 23-003 is an ordinance adopting amendments to the land development ordinance regarding micro businesses licensed as cannabis establishments or distributors. Chapter 345, Section 60.5. This is a public hearing on this ordinance. Any member of the public wishing to be heard, please come up to the podium and state your name for the record.
Just like to get a little more meat to this, more understanding to it.
Laura,
It doesn't say enough for me.
explain it to you, Lauren.
It's just merely addressing some of the changed titles of some of the, we had adopted our cannabis ordinance prior to the state law being finalized. This merely just redefines some of the terms. I can be in touch with you and let you know what the full details of that are if you'd like. I can reach out to you and give you some more information on the details. Sure.
Thank you. This is still a public hearing on City Ordinance 23-003. Any member of the public wishing to be heard, please come up to, okay, I'm sorry. Just give me 1 second. If you can just state your name for the record for me and spell it for me, please.
Jaden Hernandez. Ayden.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Well, I just had a couple of questions regarding the land development.
Just make sure the mic is by you.
The land development ordinance for the micro businesses in licensed cannabis establishments. Would this pertain to all micro businesses or only licensed under the actual license from the state?
Department.
This applies only to the ones licensed by the state.
Would this pertain to all of the licenses being given to people who are from underprivileged communities as well?
I'm just reading, right. No, it only applies in commercial and industrial zones.
That's all. Thank you.
Okay, this is still a public hearing on City Ordinance 23-003. Any member of the public wishing to be heard, please come up to the podium and state your name for the record.
Close.
Do I hear a motion to close the public hearing?
Second. That was Councilman Bogiano.
Yep, just give me 1 second. I don't know what's going on here. Motion to close the public hearing on City Ordinance 23-003 was made by Councilperson Fagiano. And the second was made by Councilperson Saleh. Did I have that right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. On the motion to close the public hearing on City Ordinance 23-003, Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Bajiano.
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson Gilmore.
Aye.
Councilperson DeGise.
Aye.
And Council President Waterman. Motion carries 8-0 with Councilperson Rivera absent to close the public hearing on City Ordinance 23-003. The final consideration and adoption of City Ordinance 23-003, Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Bajiano.
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson Gilmore.
Aye.
Councilperson DeGise.
Aye.
And Council President Waterman. City Ordinance 23-003 is adopted 8-0 with Councilperson Rivera absent. Council members, as discussed at the caucus, we are going to be withdrawing item 4.4, City Ordinance 23-004 from the agenda. I just wanted to confirm that with our Business Administrator, John Metro.
Yes, thank you, Sean. Working with Councilwoman Prinzary and the Law Department, I believe we're going to reintroduce it with some amended language.
Okay, with that being said, we are going to move on to our public speaking portion of the meeting. So our first speaker, 5.1, Laverne Webb Washington.
Good evening again. I'm here because today I'm a little disturbed about helping our community, our young people with jobs and stuff. This young man here is a businessman raised in Jersey City. His father is a retired cop. Tell him who your father is.
Marvin Cooper.
And I got his business cards. He needs some work. We was talking like my councilman said last week about people in our community getting some jobs, and he cleans out buildings, has his own dump trucks. And so I'm gonna leave his card for you guys, but we really need his help in the city that he can help others. Just like I was saying, the young people came to me about jobs. I'm taking them down near the PAT for the flag program back in December and November. They can't get hired, and he said to the budget approves the money. In the meantime, people like him can give them, on-the-job work, like cleaning out abandoned housing and so forth. He got the dump trucks in his own business, and we need to give business back to our community. He born, raised here, father, retired cop, grew up with me down on Van Horn and Holiday with her family, a counselor, a large family. And so let's work with these people that want to work and give back to our city. And I'm not here long, and I thank you. Here's the card.
Shirley. Shirley, I worked with his father and he was really a good, what? Laverne, what, I'm sorry. But I worked with your father and he was quite a guy. I really enjoyed working with him. Okay, Shirley.
Thank you, Laverne.
Laverne, I was thinking of
Thank you.
Laverne and Shirley.
Okay, our next speaker, 5.2, Susan Marie Carr. Suzanne?
Hi. This is just a follow-up to the last time I was here in late November. I've already discussed this with Councilman Solomon. So most of the items that I wanted to bring up to you are with Councilman Solomon, and he's going to bring them to the team that the traffic engineers, et cetera. My request right now is to ask you as council to use your influence with the parking enforcement group. While this diet that we were placed on is being tried, as we lose our weight, we are losing parking spaces. We have lost our parking spaces, and we are having a great difficulty finding places to park. I have already gotten one ticket. Neighbors below us have had two. I'm asking you to ask the parking enforcement to lay off these the parking restrictions that you have placed on us have reduced our parking by 40%. We live in the community, so I'm just asking for your influence with them. Yeah, that's all I need because Council Solomon has addressed and will be addressing the other items that we brought up. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you.
I'm Frank Cassini, and I also was involved in with Councilman Solomon. So thank you, and I think it's been addressed.
Thank you, Frank. He's on the list.
Okay, he was on the list. He was the next speaker.
The next person.
They're a team. Okay, next, item 5.4, Irene.
Hello, Council.
Hi.
I'm here today in my volunteer capacity as Chair of the Friends of Riverview Park and as the newly elected President of the Riverview Neighborhood Association. Last week, we were horrified when the gardens we manage in Riverview Park were chopped down to the ground by a maintenance contractor hired by the Department of Recreation. This crew appeared in the park without notice and over the course of 2 days butchered our gardens, which included the largest rain garden in the city, down to nothing. Over the last year, the Friends of Riverview have spent more than 1,000 hours thoughtfully working to restore the rain garden after years of municipal neglect. The rain garden was an infrastructure project designed by the city to mitigate flooding, provide a habitat for birds and pollinators, and serve as an oasis of nature off of busy Palisade Avenue. The city knew the Friends of Riverview had begun a restoration in collaboration with Jersey City's landscape architect. This year, our little group removed 96 weed barrels of weeds and put in 141 new native plants to bring the garden back to glory. And it was glorious. This garden was the jewel of our park, and now it has been razed to the ground. We do not know what will survive. I am devastated. Our volunteers and our community are devastated. I know it's tempting to point the finger and blame the contractor who performed this job. I'm here to say in no uncertain terms today that this tragedy is not the fault of the guys with the weed whackers. This was caused by the ignorance of those tasked with managing them, who thought that what they were doing here was good and failed to call off the workers even after we contacted them multiple times begging for the destruction to stop. And that is the problem. This city has a habit of putting people in charge who do not have the skills, knowledge, or self-awareness needed to make appropriate decisions, and then pointing the finger elsewhere when something goes wrong. And that has a devastating impact on Jersey City's green infrastructure. I'm taking a risk here and asking you to open your minds to a different perspective. I have heard this council aggressively blame city vendors when concerns are brought to their attention, and I have heard the same council wonder why they get so few or any responses to RFP requests for necessary services. Those answers are connected. No company who knows what they're doing wants to be managed by someone who doesn't. And no company should be expected to take the fall when Jersey City asks them to do something inappropriate out of ignorance. This is not the fault of the guys with the weed whackers. I am profoundly grateful to the Director of Recreation, Lucinda McLaughlin, for immediately recognizing the severity of the situation, accepting responsibility on behalf of the Parks Division, and offering replacement plans after she was informed of the damage. This shows tremendous leadership and accountability, and she should be applauded for that. I know we're all working with who and what we've got, but for us to move forward, both city staff and the council need to acknowledge how much you do not know and ask for help so as not to cause the public's few precious natural resources to continue to be destroyed out of ignorance. Thank you for listening. And thank you, Councilman Saleh, for acknowledging these issues.
Thank you.
Our
I want to just, I just want to tell the audience something. When someone is speaking at the podium, when you clap, we can't hear what they're saying at that point. So that's why we ask people to clap after they finish so we can hear everything. Because the moment you clap, part of her speech, we couldn't hear it. Okay, so that's why we asked you to do that, okay? Go ahead, Jean.
Good evening. I'm just going to address that woman's great statement, but I don't know if it was the city parks people who did it or the subcontractors that they're hiring out, takeovering union jobs that should belong to this city. I've got to go quickly. Firstly, I'm noticing resolution 10.5. You're spending $30,000 for a company to tell you how to pay what you owe your workers. So you admit that you owe the money to the supervisors union. Now you're spending money on how they will tell you to pay them. It's very simple. You open your checkbook and you pay them. Why are you spending $30,000 to try to find out how to pay these people? You owe them this money. You owe the other union money that set the precedent for back pay during the COVID times, or the emergency, excuse me. And that money was already given to you by the government for their work, and it has been misspent. So I'd like to address that. Another thing is Exchange Place, our public plaza. It is no longer a public plaza. It is now, if you go down there and look at the private corporate roadway that's being built, it is the private corporate roadway. Corporate roadway is massive. It's visually offensive. And I really wish you all could go down and look at it and see what you have done to this city. It's really an embarrassment. The fact that nobody stepped in after we've been fighting this, and I've been fighting because I knew that roadway was, they were trying to shove that in. Mr. DeMarco's excuses are incorrect. It's really a shame. And you should be disgusted because we've now lost well over 40% of Exchange Place Plaza to a private corporate roadway. Moving forward, as far as the public's concerned, you are keeping some very important information from the public. This concerns matters of a DEP, and it concerns matters that could consist of contaminated soil, flood zone violations, and construction in flood zones and landfill. We all worry, we know we've got contaminated land here, but your public is not being informed of it properly. And the reason being is when a public person, the company submits a proposal to the DEP, they send it to the city council, the city's clerk's office, as a public notice. Yet you can't find this public notice until about a month later. Quickly, this one was dated January 9th. They said you have 15 days to respond. 15 days was yesterday.
Thank you, Jean.
So
Thank you.
we need to make these things
Thank you.
public so everybody is informed,
Thank
not
you.
just the city clerk.
Next speaker, 5.6, Paul Berman. Paul? Not here? Thank you. Next speaker, 5.7, Amanda Blue. Not here? Okay. 5.8, Elizabeth Nodi. Elizabeth? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Ndoy. I'm a longtime resident of Hoboken, a member of the Hoboken Democratic Committee, Don't Gas the Meadowlands, Empower New Jersey, and Food and Water Watch New Jersey. I'm also a member of the Hoboken Green Team. And as an artist, I sit on the Hoboken Arts Advisory Board, and I'm a proud longtime member of the Jersey City artist group Pro Arts. My studio is here in Jersey City at Manna Contemporary. I tell you all of the above to share with you my passionate commitment to both my home, Hoboken, and my sister city here, Jersey City. I'm with you tonight wearing my environmentalist hat to plead with you, council members. Although I do want to thank two of you, council members Saleh and Solomon, because you've signed the letter that I'm about to plead with the rest of you to sign. But I'm here to plead with you to sign our Don't Gas the Meadowlands Food and Water Watch New Jersey letter to Governor Murphy to stop the proposed New Jersey Transit fracked gas power plant. New Jersey Transit wishes to build this outmoded, dirty gas power plant on contaminated, flood-prone land at Copper's Coke. That is only a mile and a half from Journal Square. The environmental justice effects of its construction are many, from risks to pregnant women and their unborn children, to the mortality of young asthma victims, the immunocompromised, and the elderly and frail. Jersey City, already overburdened from methane, CO2, NOx emissions, and NOx emissions, will be bombarded with even more air pollution. Transit's reasons are ostensibly sensible and good. They wish to keep the trains running during and after megastorms like Sandy and Ida. That's laudable, but really, they intend to run this fossil fuel dinosaur plant 24/7 to sell power back to the grid. This plant will spur the effects of climate change, cause sea level rise and ocean warming, and will be an outmoded economic disaster before it's built.
Thank you.
I implore you members to sign this letter to Governor Murphy. I have hard copies and I will contact you by email again.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, 5.9, Lauren Morse. Lauren?
Hi, good evening. I'm also here, like Irene, to speak about the destruction at Riverview Fisk Park. I'm here as a co-leader of the Hudson County chapter of New Jersey's Native Plant Society. I've worked on many native plant projects here. It's so gratifying to see a space come alive with beautiful flowers, bees, butterflies, and birds. It's even more gratifying to see the sense of community as we work together to make Jersey City the best place it can be. We want to help build the best Jersey City we can. However, our hard work keeps being undone deliberately. This has happened repeatedly in the Heights. In just the last year, the Hope Garden near Suprema was hacked to bits. The Western Slope Garden has been mowed over 3 times. And just days ago, Riverview Fisk, our largest rain garden, was absolutely demolished. The city needs to stop this pattern of destruction. It's expensive to replace these plants. And now local volunteers will struggle not only to beat back invasive species that will try to take over these barren spaces, but we will also to struggle to know if our hours of labor even matter. Will the city just mow down a restored space again in a few months? Much of what's gone at Riverview Fisk Park won't regrow. It's been pulled, trampled, or cut too far back. And all of the overwintering bees and insects have been swept away to die in garbage bags. Local birds can't use the space to find shelter or food. And these are things that we also enjoy as citizens. We enjoy seeing that local wildlife. There are many groups that use it for those purposes. So I'm here to ask, what's to stop the space from being destroyed again? We need effective consultation with community groups and an effective system in place. We currently have plans, we have signage, and we have fencing, and still the spaces are not safe from being clear cut. It's so infuriating to see our work destroyed over and over again in our neighborhood. It's absolutely unacceptable. We just want our neighborhoods to have nice green spaces. They improve our mental health, they manage stormwater, and they reduce extreme heat. These are so necessary as we are on the front lines of climate change as well as air pollution. We will do the work so that we can have these spaces, but we need the city to be a better partner. The solution is not just to add more signs, more barricades, cross our fingers, and hope it doesn't happen again. We need you to follow through with a plan to stop the culture of cutting down anything and everything in our parks on a whim. We are happy to help with training and education, but we need there to be a cultural shift and accountability in the city. So I ask the council to please commit to making sure our green spaces and parks are maintained properly and not clear-cut at every opportunity. The destruction that happened at Riverview Fisk must not happen again. We are eager to work with you to remedy this systemic problem that is holding our city back, wasting thousands of dollars, and crushing the morale of volunteers who give so much to our city. We look forward to fixing this together. Thank you so much.
Okay, on behalf of Council President and the Municipal Council, I'm going to go a little out of order because we have Commissioner Romano here from Hoboken and representing Jersey City as well. So we're going to bring up Commissioner Anthony Romano.
Thank you for the courtesy, distinguished members of the Jersey City Council and directors and other staffs. I'm here tonight to advocate for a group that I just found out recently that is now in my redistricting in downtown. And I'm going to be working with the distinguished Councilman Youssef Soleil, who is a dear friend, and that's the people of Portside, the Portside Towers. And I would ask that the City Council listen to what they're saying. And as I just did recently in Hoboken, where I had to speak for a group of tenants also, that we work together to come to a resolution that is fair so we keep those that have affordable housing in Jersey City and some sort of a balance that benefits everyone involved. And I think that that's important that the City Council listen to what they have to say, hopefully work with them, come together in collaboration, And since I know many of the council here, that many distinguished and honorable people, I know that you'll be willing to hear them out. And to the representatives of Portside, it's going to be an honor to represent you and to work with you to come to a conclusion that benefits everyone involved and make sure that these people know that they're welcome in Jersey City, that Jersey City is also for affordable people, and that it has a government that represents and will hear them out. And also on another note, I'd just like to support the union, Local 32BJ, and hopefully that they don't lose any jobs in this tough economy. For people to lose their jobs, it's just a very, very difficult situation. So again, thank you for the honor to speak. I'm going to represent you, so it would be an honor to stay in touch. And Kevin, thank you for everything. And God bless each other. Let's work together. Jersey City is a great city. Let's keep it great. Let's keep it inclusive. And God bless you all. Thank you.
Again, just for the record, that was a courtesy for the commissioner to be heard. And now back to our regular scheduling order. Next speaker, 5.10, Kimberly Kelly. Kimberly? Not here. Jason Slack? No. Elena Little?
Good evening, City Council members. My name is Elena Little. I'm both a tenant in Jersey City and a candidate for Hudson County Executive. I'm here tonight to stand in solidarity with the tenants of Portside Towers and demand that Jersey City enforce its rent control ordinance 260. The fact that regular people who are facing an illegal rent hike over 30% need to take months out of their lives to fight this reveals flaws in the system. Councilperson Solomon's proposal to have a publicly searchable database of rent-controlled buildings was a good one, and I urge the entire council to move forward with it as soon as possible. These tenants who have already been charged tens of thousands of dollars in excess rent shouldn't be on the hook to retain a lawyer just because their corporate landlord doesn't feel like playing by the rules and is trying to scrape as much profit out of them as they can. Equity Residential, the 5th largest owner of apartments in the United States, is making a business decision at these people's expense. They're taking a gamble that Jersey City's rent control ordinance will not be enforced. And so far, they've been right. What is the tenant-landlord relations office doing if they're not protecting constituents from being exploited by powerful corporations like Equity, flouting our local ordinances? No filing, no exemption. Why is this being slow-rolled? Director Richardson, we call on you to enforce Ordinance 260 now. Equity must abandon their illegal rent increases and refund the tenants of Portside Towers what they are owed, that which they've already overpaid. Once again, the burden should not be on the tenants here, everyday people, to prove wrongdoing. The city should be enforcing its own rules. No filing, no exemption. Jersey City has the power to hold bad actor corporate landlords accountable. My question is, why isn't it doing this already? Thank you so much. I urge you to listen to the voices of the many Portside Towers tenants here tonight.
Thank you. Next speaker, Roger Hateman.
Good evening, council members. I started the Friends of Riverview Fisk Park back in 2019 because I was informed by a city official that the rain garden around the gazebo was to be the responsibility of volunteers to maintain it. It was evident.
Excuse me, Roger, if you could just bring the mic up to you. There you go.
It was evident that unless something was done, the rain garden would become overgrown and cease to exist. The city would have had 40-foot tall weed trees and other invasive weeds would have taken over and essentially destroyed the native plants struggling to establish themselves. A small volunteer group was formed, and over 3 years, we worked over thousands of hours in the hot sun and digging out weed trees by hand and pulling out things like the invasive thorny Asian rose vine, which is like trying to remove barbed wire. There were some days when some of us suffered from the heat, but we knew that if we didn't do the work, the investment of tens of thousands of taxpayer dollars would be wasted. We struggled to keep up and received no help from the city. We felt our work would have a positive environmental impact, as it was and is in the largest rain garden in the city, and maybe in the county. Recently, the city's contractor suddenly elected to clear cut the garden with hedge trimmers and destroy some of the native plants we put in last year. We doubt many will survive the winter since they survive on woody growth. We had no clue in advance that the outside contractor would do this work in the middle of winter, and we just happened to observe the destruction, but could not stop it by notifying the city. I am disappointed but not surprised, as this seems to be a part of a recurring pattern. I blame it on a lack of knowledge by the city of the community and a lack of fundamental gardening knowledge. There is no excuse for the disrespect of our volunteers' hard work trying to maintain an important resource. If you don't understand it, stay away from it entirely, as the city had done for years. We believe that was not the case. There are community groups in other parks that have experienced the same issues. I suggest that going forward, those groups should receive a notice well in advance of work to be done, so that they can supervise it and maybe request a change of the scope of the work. I'm thankful to Director McLaughlin for her understanding of the issue and offering to rectify the problem so that volunteers can feel appreciated and the plant loss can be recovered. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, 5.14, Frank Guzman.
Good evening, council members.
Please silence your cell phones, everyone.
My name is Frank Guzman. I work with the Jersey City Communications Center. I'm Bishop. I'm currently an acting supervisor. We all heard the expression of you get what you pay for. I believe everybody understands what that means. What I'm trying to say by that is the unicorn system that the city hired at, I believe, was $1.3 million. This system does not even recognize our hours. We work on a 5-3 and 5-2 basis. For them to not recognize our work week and to disrupt our salaries as they have been in the last 2 paychecks, where people have not even been able to cash their checks because it was post-dated for January 19th from the beginning of the middle of December. That's a shame. People have lives, people got bills. There's mortgages to be paid, car payments to be paid, insurance, and these people had to wait. Who's going to pay the late fees for them at the bank? That's just one. I worked 16 hours the other night. I work a midnight shift. They don't even recognize my midnight shift appropriately. My midnight shift kicks in at 20 to 50 hours, which is at 10 to 11, and goes into the next day. They don't recognize it that way. Also, I worked the 16 hours, which of those 16 hours, 8 was overtime. Now, with that said, I was told at the end of going on my end of my 16 hours, that I'm working for 100%. Now, according to the contract, after my 8 hours, I'm supposed to be getting paid a time and a half, understanding that it's got to be a 40-hour work week. But to be told after working 16 hours that you're only getting the 100% regular pay, that hurts. It hurts the household, it hurts me personally and mentally. I devote my time and my blood, sweat, and tears to my job. I take away time from my child and my wife to devote my loyalty to this job, yet I'm not appreciated. I want to end it with this contract language. And it's Article 34, Section 6. By virtue of working this schedule, employees are deemed to be on a 40-hour work week per week schedule, whose hourly rate is determined by using a divisor of 2,038 hours.
Sorry, Frank.
But Frank,
leave
we're
you with
looking
that.
into all of that. I just want you to know, we are looking into all the situations that happen with the paychecks, okay? We are as a council. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Thank you, council members.
Next speaker, 5.15, Noreen Collins.
I didn't know you could bring signs. I'm totally bringing a sign next time. I have something in common with, I'd say, everybody in the room tonight. I do not want to be here talking about Amy DeGeese's driving record. I have things to do, just like they all do. But because you're here, I'm here. And I gotta say, you are Jersey City's George Santos. And before anybody on the dais starts feeling comfortable,
Address,
everybody.
you know what? Just address me, okay? Because, you know.
Okay,
Okay,
well,
just be
just
respectful.
apply my comments.
Right.
Everyone other than Solomon and Gilmore are our McCarthys now. Because all of you know everything that has gone on. Clearly, she was vetted. Clearly, you all knew, as did Philip, that she's been suspended. This is her third official suspension. But she's gotten 11, this will be the 12th, 11 suspension notices and scheduled suspensions for driving, for bad driving, for accidents, for not paying parking tickets, for this, for that, for the other thing. When I moved here 23 years ago, the taxes on my house were $12,000. They're $30,000 now. And if I'm going to pay $30,000 to live on Jersey Avenue, and I do not want someone representing me in a public service context who is not serving me, who I don't believe has the moral fortitude and grounding that anyone on my block would have. And the important thing about public service is it's a service. We didn't create your job to give you one. And you don't get to keep your job because you're really committed to it or it's in your blood or whatever it is. I read your statement and I got to tell you, I was a public servant too. Public servants don't use I, me all the time. You talk about yourself. It's in my blood. I want to do it. We don't want you to. You hit and ran from an accident and you pled guilty. Good, because you were guilty. The fact that you're still sitting here and the fact that everyone else who hasn't spoken out sits there like McCarthy's, I got to tell you, I'm just a regular person from a homeowner. I shouldn't have to know your background and your driving record to just live here. But I now have to know who's a cheat, who's doing some stuff on the side, who's living in affordable housing when they're making $200,000 a year. I have to do this stuff.
Thank you.
And I'm saying we are all watching. And when you guys want to get your next job,
Thank you.
I will
Thank you,
be
Nori.
there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, 5.16, Megan Caroline. Megan? Is Megan here? Christina Mezzi?
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, council. I work midnights as a dispatcher for the fire department. I'm here to speak up about the recurring issues that have been going on with our paychecks. The new system that you passed a resolution for in March of 2021 does not work for us in public safety. For those that work a normal Monday through Friday schedule, this system is fine. But for those that have a rotating shift, this system was not built for that. At dispatch, we work 5, we're off 2, we work 5, we're off 3. This system cannot calculate our time correctly. An example would be for midnights. It has a hard time processing the fact that the midnight shift comes in at 10:50 and leaves the next day at 7 a.m. We are technically the first shift of the new day. An example would be that I come in at 10:50 p.m. on a Friday and leave Saturday morning at 7 a.m. I technically worked Saturday. There are many other issues that affect every shift, and we are more than happy to point that out truthfully to you all. After not being paid until 6:30 p.m. on payday of January 6th, most checks did not clear until Monday the 9th or Tuesday the 10th. Some of my coworkers' checks did not clear until the 19th, when our next payday was the 20th. I personally am still owed hours from both checks. This will now affect our W-2s since our last check from the 2022 year was wrong. We're still waiting for money we're owed from last year's W-2s that are wrong. Respectfully, all of you call and complain about how we do our jobs, not even knowing what our job is. But not one of you called to make sure the people at dispatch had enough money to pay bills and feed their families, or to simply offer to bring coffee or pizza, since we were all paid incorrectly for not 1, but 2 paychecks. Councilman Rivera said it himself, that people live paycheck to paycheck, and that in itself is a disgrace. To hear that the city's first responders live paycheck to paycheck and they can't even get paid correctly. We have yet to receive an email to let us know what is going to happen with the money we're owed. And as of today, we have yet to receive an apology or an explanation as to what even went wrong. When looking at the pay stubs with the new system, most, if not all, employees are confused to what we're even looking at to determine if our hours are correct. After signing into the new portal to view our checks, the next person that signs in on that same computer will sign in with their own credentials, but will see the previous employee's information. The system also tends to clock out and clock employees back in on its own. For example, mine clocked me out at 1:35 a.m. and back in at 1:35 a.m. On a different day, it clocked me out at 6:20 a.m. and back in at 6:20 a.m. One of my coworkers has a punch out time for a day she wasn't even working. We have been threatened multiple times with disciplinary actions and up to and including termination if we did not punch in or out. Now we're being threatened with privatization again. This job is stressful enough to begin with. Now to have threats made adds to the stress level in the room on a daily basis.
Thank
We're not looking for extra money or special treatment. We're just looking to be paid correctly for the hours we work.
Thank you.
Christina.
We sacrifice a lot and
Christine,
we deserve to be given the
your
respect
time is
and
up.
pay we deserve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Time is up.
Next speaker, Kevin Bing.
Good evening, City Council. I am here tonight to address Councilperson DeGise. And, you know, I appreciate that this week you pled guilty to the hit and run you committed last July, and you said you're sorry. But I think it's really important, as Terrence McDonald said in the New Jersey Monitor, that saying you're sorry doesn't explain your indifference to human life or your disrespect for the law. I don't know what you did for 6 hours after the hit and run, whether you took time to sober up, call your political advisors, or go spend time with your students. At this point, it really doesn't matter what excuses you choose to make up. You need to leave your job and resign now. I also want to address everyone else on council. First, Councilperson Solomon and Gilmore, I want to thank you for acting with integrity and being the only 2 sitting council people to actually call on Councilperson DeGise to resign. Chair Waterman, I've often heard you talk about the need for affordable housing in this city. I'd like to know how you feel knowing that one of your colleagues is scamming the system by living in college towers while collecting a 6-figure income. Councilperson Prince Airy, you often seek the support of the Safe Streets and Bike community. How can you claim to be credible when you joined Councilperson DeGise this October to hand out candy out of the back of the same Nissan Rogue she used to strike down Andy Black? Councilperson Sala, you bill yourself as a leader for young Democrats. Is the future of our party one of bold independent ideas or spineless public statements? Councilperson Baggiano, You know I know a little bit about your political career. And the one thing I know is that you have a great respect and you always stand up for law enforcement, for the working men and women. I ask you, how can you sit next to someone on city council who has been caught on tape harassing a Hoboken cop for doing their job? A politician who thinks she's above the law and threatens to call City Hall because she can't deal with the consequences of a traffic violation. Do you really want to serve that way? Finally, I want to address someone who's not in the room, Mayor Fulop. I'm going to skip the morality lesson and speak a language that I know he understands, politics. I wish him all the best in his upcoming race for governor. And I know he thinks that having the support of the DeGise family and the Hudson machine is very important, but I can tell him now he's making a mistake. His primary opponents are currently dreaming up ads and Oppo research about him and his best friend, Amy DeGise, how she bullies cops, scams the affordable housing system, and leaves cyclists for dead in the streets. Mayor Fulop, it's time to call on Amy DeGise to resign. And to members of the public, I invite you to join me in February at City Hall. We will be having a rally out front, and I hope to see you all there. I have flyers if you're interested. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Next speaker, 5.19, Kevin Weller.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
The mayor appoints Dinah Hendon. She doesn't enforce 260. Then he appoints Chiron Richardson. We are still hopeful. Next stop, mayor appointed rent leveling board, and then perhaps to the Superior Court. Did you know the mayor's house in Jersey City is owned by an LLC and the registered agent is the father of the Hudson County Superior Court assignment judge? Wow, no wonder our landlord is so confident. Director Richardson, get out while you still can. Don't lose your reputation. A lot of good people look up to you. Press, I hope you can write fast today. Just don't write about John Metro or your paper might be gone in a week. Did you know the original owner of the Hudson Reporter was Joe Barry? Did you know he was the developer who built Portside Towers? Joe Barry and Portside. Joe Barry and the mayor. The last time we were here, we learned from corporate counsel Peter Baker, the city council may amend the rent leveling statute contained in the city code. Bingo. You guys can fix this. So we studied the code and we found out there are a number of examples where official city forms are required. Whatever the process, it is clear it can be done by you. Petition claiming failure to maintain services, official form. The landlord identity disclosure, form. A legal rent petition, form. There's a bunch of them. So we created a form, and you have the power to make it official. It locks down the rent control determination to the requirements of the ordinance, 2 sides of 1 piece of paper. The rent leveling administrator just has to circle yes or no to 5 questions. We have a bunch of them already filled out for our buildings. If Pastor Richardson won't sign them, we all have to ask why. Press, ask him. I'll send you the form. How about the official form for the landlord registration statement? That is the one that has a section C to record the date of the mortgage and the date of the CO. That is an official city form. How did that get approved? When was that last changed? Who approved the last change to that form? Do you know on that official form, there's an entire section that says this section is required where the owner claims an exemption from rent control? Did you know that form and the information it requires does not exist for either of our buildings, not even late? It doesn't exist at all. Do you know who created that form? Dinah Hendon on April 2nd, 2019 at 4:48 p.m. 2023 is going to be a big year for official forms. It got kicked off with one on January 3rd. Wow, someone got an early start, 9:04 a.m. Creepy that I know that exact time. Peter Baker, put your official corruption bureau hat back on for a few seconds. Anyone want to guess what the change was on that form? That's right. Someone deleted the requirement that our landlord didn't meet. Poof, it's just gone. I even know who did it. It's all in the metadata in the file. I have the before and the after. Mr. Baker used to be Deputy Attorney General in the Office of Corruption.
Thank you, Kevin.
He knows about metadata.
Thank you.
Next, 5.20, Vinnie Bersha. Vinnie?
My name is Brendan O'Donnell. I'm speaking on behalf of Vinnie Berisha. That's all right. He's right there.
Oh, he have to speak.
He has to actually speak.
Yeah, he would
Okay.
have to speak.
Good afternoon. Our union has been organizing residential building service workers in Jersey City and up and down the Jersey Gold Coast to raise standards in the industry. In New York, where residential building workers have been with 32 BJ for decades, concierge, porters, door person, handy person, and other workers receive family sustaining benefits and quality benefits like full family health insurance, paid time off, a pension, and training. We have one similar strong standards for commercial office cleaners both here in Jersey City and right across the region. Residential workers here in Jersey City deserve respect on the job and decent wages and benefits that they can rely on and raise their family. Last year, we began organizing with concierge and porters at 5 buildings in Jersey City owned by Equity Realty. Equity is publicly traded real estate company with billions. Workers have signed representation cards with union and contract company that employs them has recognized the union's majority at a number of sites, including the Port Towers, which has a number of tenants here tonight speaking. While workers were organizing, we found out that Equity was planning on switching the current contractor to a new non-union company. Workers at these buildings simply want their right to form a union and bargain for improved wages and benefits. We also are here together with tenants from the Tenant Association of Portside West and East who have signed a letter of support. These workers, we are grateful that the tenants at these buildings are standing with their workers. We urge Equity to engage a responsible contractor that is committed to providing family-sustaining jobs and respecting workers' rights. I ask the City Council to do what it can to hold Equity accountable to it, workers and the broader community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, 5.21, Anna Davies.
Hello, thank you for taking the time. My name is Anna Davies. I've spoken in front of you all before. I'm an 8-year resident of Jersey City, all 8 of them in Portside Towers. And I'm here standing with my neighbors and am urging transparency and attention to continue to investigate rent control enforcement. This is larger than Portside Towers, larger than Equity, larger than downtown. There are hundreds of buildings within Jersey City who are illegally acting as rent control exempt and over 1,000 pages of documents. I have one right here. Portside Towers stands with 45 Cottage Street. Since we have obtained documentation that supports that 45 Cottage Street has been legally subject to rent control since 1994. We have hundreds of other papers showing this. So, I see a metaphor as we were listening to our friends from Riverview Park, that tragedy, and the crossroads we're at now. As a Riverview Park speaker said, Jersey City often asks their leaders to do something inappropriate out of ignorance. Everyone is here because they love the city they call home. They love Jersey City. The burden should not be on citizens to make things right with no help from the city. And that's something that our Riverview Park friends said as well. Like the Riverview Park Rain Garden, our tenants have put in hundreds of thousands of hours of work to do the city's job. Don't trash that work by deleting, obfuscating, and having continuous closed door meetings. I'm looking for continued cooperation from you, the council, and continued transparency, and most importantly, action. We know Director Richardson can put forward a lawful update, and we're asking for him to do so with your support. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, Tara Smythe, 5.22. Tara? She's not here? Thank you. 5.23, Thomas Conroy.
Madam President, council members, I used to start my other speeches here by thanking you for the honor to speak to you. I'm no longer doing that. Rather, I'm starting with, this is my right as a Jersey City resident to politely call you on your lack of response to do your job, excuse me, for over 9 months. So now I'll start with, I'm ashamed to say that I live in Jersey City, and I'm ashamed to say I voted for you. I submitted my petition for illegal rent increases for Portside on May 31st, 2022, almost 9 months ago. And you've done nothing except ignore the law and that this legislative body and that the state of New Jersey set forth to protect tenants. Oh, and by the way, let's not forget, tenants represent 72.1% of Jersey City residents. And I just learned from Kevin that we've identified a whole bunch of other Jersey City buildings that the building ordinance haven't been followed through correctly. Our efforts keep growing. If you plan to run again for further office, we'll remember your collusion with large landlords and not residents. That has been clearly demonstrated over the last several months. My name is Tom Conroy. I've been a resident of Portside for 15 years. As a tenant board member for Portside East Tower, I fully support the petition that there has never been a filing, so there's never should have been an exception. Something you should have ignored, you have ignored over and over. So tonight I'm going to take a different tactic. I have 3 different filings, which I'm happy to share. I can find myself again. Happy to share. They were submitted by Equity for 155 Washington Street for the years 2020, 2021, and 2022, in which Equity itself said the building is rent controlled. You've gotten those, and I can give you a copy if you'd like. They sent it to you, and you approved it. We got these from the city. Based on these filings by Equity and accepted by Jersey City for housing, my housing rent increase from 2022 should not have increased by $958.65. Rather, at a cap of 4%, it should have only increased $159.70. My rent increase from 2022 to 2023 should not have increased by 487. Again, at a cap of 4%, it should have increased $166. That means I was overcharged 700. I got the link here first. And then if you'd like, these are your filings.
Thank you.
Next, 5.24, Judith Fury. Judith?
I am a senior living in one of 166 affordable housing units at 100 Montgomery. There are over 200 units. I'm not sure about the number. 308. Thank you, Portside Towers, for inviting the tenants at 100 Montgomery to share documents and other information to battle Jersey City's illegal rent increase. I was shocked to learn outrageous rent increases. This is a major concern to know that this group behind me, their efforts to address an outrageous rent increase is not addressed even after the national news coverage. Nothing changed. Today, I became aware of upsetting information that Portside Towers received incorrect information from Jersey City to address the rent increase after a previous meeting. Why does this concern me and why is this happening? We received a letter on November 17th, dated November 10th, to inform us, the tenants, of a rent increase of 8% effective January 1st. The letter stated the 8% was allowed under the regulations set forth by New Jersey Housing Mortgage Finance Agency, Section 589.4, governed by the agreement between Jersey City and this above agency. It also served as a 45-day notice. I'm upset because we received the notice November 17th. That's a 38-day notice. And the landlord sent a letter dated January 17th saying, sorry, clerical error. The agreement is with the DCA. How are these mistakes possible? The rent roll doesn't have a cover page, and some people moved or died that are on there. Every apartment is documented as rented, and there's about 70 apartments empty. Why are all the clerical errors? Anybody want information? We're free. I'd like to talk to someone.
You can talk, yeah. You can see us afterwards if you like. We'll talk to you on the side.
5.25, Jake.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Jake Efros. I'm a resident in Jersey City Heights. I'm an organizer with a labor union. It's my day job. And I'm an organizer with the Democratic Socialists of America here in Jersey City. That's in my personal capacity. And in my personal capacity today, I am here in solidarity with the Portside tenants who have been waging this extremely important fight in their homes. As a previous speaker, Anna, had mentioned, there are a number of other locations that have been uncovered by documents obtained by Jersey City, from Jersey City rather, where it seems as though there are rent control laws in place that may be flouted. And so I want to read off some of these other residencies: 39 Cornelissen Ave, 60 Van Rypen Ave, 76 St. Paul's Avenue. I believe there are still more that are going to be read into the record tonight, where the owner did not file a claim of exemption prior to the completion of construction. And so we stand in solidarity with these places as well. With the remainder of my time, I would just like to identify what I hear as a theme of tonight's city council meeting. We have labor unions under attack. We have our community spaces being dug up and torn up without the community having any say about it. We have working people who are being overworked and underpaid for their valuable services. And quite frankly, the rent is too damn high in this city. And we're here tonight because there's a large movement in our city of working people rising up against what is really a corporate attack on the city, picking out residents who are trying to make their lives here. And so I ask all of you in city council and everyone listening in Jersey City, it's time to decide, which side are you on?
Thank you.
Next, 5.26, Sean Payton.
Good evening. My name is Sean Payton, and I'm a retired Navy veteran who has lived at Portside Towers for more than 2 years. In the relatively short time since my first lease, my landlord has raised my rent 23%. Because I am retired, I live on a fixed income, and every year I'm forced to wonder if I will have to move because I will no longer be able to afford to stay at Portside with the renewal increases that come out of left field. What compounds my frustration is learning that my building does not have an exemption from rent control. I don't care what the former director of landlord tenant office wrote in her determination for my building, she is wrong. Here's how I know this. First, it does not take 8 pages of narrative to make a determination of whether a building is subject to rent control. Letters sent to building owners from Dinah Hendon and her rent leveling administration predecessors granting exemption from rent control have been written in 1 page. That's all it takes, just 1 page. Pastor Richardson, city council members, and corporate council, we share with you a form that standardizes the determination process. It is based on the law, and there are only 5 questions that need to be answered. It's so simple. It will help the city to enforce Chapter 260. On behalf of all tenants in the city, amend Chapter 260 so that the form must be used to determine every residential building's rent control status. Corporate counsel, Pastor Richardson, and council members, the late great Dr. Martin Luther King's words are meant for you when he said, "The time is always right to do the right thing." Stop this nonsense now. Pastor Richardson, you have authority and powers. There exists neither receipts for claims filed nor confirmations of exemptions for either of the buildings at Portside Towers. Do not wait. Exercise your powers and enforce the law. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, 5.27, Alexandra Crum.
Hi, my name is Alexandra Com, and I live at 100 Warren Street. My neighbor at Portside, Sean Payton, who you just heard speak, talked about how it should take no more than 1 page to confirm whether a building is subject to rent control. What we receive from Dinah Hendon are determinations that are pages and pages of obfuscating information. She drones on about clerical errors and a letter claiming an exemption from rent control that was filed 2 years too late. None of this is relevant to whether a building has an exemption. It's rather simple. All one needs to do is answer 5 questions. 1, when the building was newly constructed, was it a multiple dwelling, rented or offered for rent per NJSA 2A4284-1? Was there a claim of exemption filed with the municipal construction official at least 30 days prior to the CO? 3, if a claim of exemption was filed at least 30 days prior to the CO, did it include the date upon which the exemption period so claimed shall commence per NJSA 2A4284-4? 4, if a claim of exemption was filed at least 30 days prior to the CO, did it include the number of units such claim covers per NJSA 2A4284-4? And 5, if a claim of exemption was filed at least 30 days prior to the CO, did it include such information as may be necessary to effectively locate and identify the multiple dwelling for which the exemption is claimed per NJSA 2A4284-4? If any of the 5 questions response is no, the building does not have access to rent control exemption, and it is subject to rent control. About the 1994 letter, I mentioned that you've all been told by corporate counsel satisfies the statutory requirement for the filing of owner's claim of exemption. Listen to me. That letter is a red herring, and you are being duped by your colleagues. Dinah Hendon tried to deceive us tenants by including that letter in her determinations, but we are too smart to be distracted by her obfuscations. And through these last 9 months of obfuscations and antics, do you realize who has been very quiet? My landlord and our mayor. My landlord is a mega international conglomerate REIT whose professional business is collecting rents for profit. My landlord has deep pockets and many attorneys at its disposal, and it would surely have known to secure the proof of exemptions from rent control when it purchased the Portside buildings. But of course, we know that no proof has ever existed. Mayor Fulop, you know full well that the onus is on our landlords to produce their proof of exemptions. You know there is no proof, so where are you? Where is your outrage at our situation? On your watch, our landlord and many others are abusing the laws of your city. Your complicit silence has been noted and will not be forgotten. I also just want to note that I am, along with the rest of my neighbors here, very unhappy to have to be here on a work night during a holiday to spend extra time. This is not my first time coming to the council to speak about this. We would like to see some action in our favor. We've provided the documents. We've repeated this message.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, 5.25, Suzanne DeFelice.
Hello again. Pastor Richardson, you are right. we are showing up. I hope you tune in to hear us like we tune in to hear you. While you were talking about us, you said, ready for this? People should care less about where they live now and more about where they will live in their afterlife. Let that sit with you. This is the director of the Tenant Landlord Relations Office, who is supposed to protect Jersey City's tenant population, specifically related to housing. We shouldn't worry so much about where we live. Is that why you are not helping us? We all know you have the power. Even you said, you have the power to change the lives for these people, I quote. Pastor, think about what is important to you and do that. We will all watch and know you by what you do, by what you don't do, and by what you allow. 2 weeks ago at our last meeting, the city council said they will do what they can within their power to assist us. We met them more than halfway by creating a form they can approve. Director Richardson has shown in his short few weeks at the LTRO that he answers to someone who won't let him do the right thing. Didn't he say he wasn't going to be a puppet? Council, you have much in your power to assist us and keep bad actors accountable. After the last meeting, Councilman Gilmore told us that we would have an open meeting between us, councilmen, and Director Richardson. Councilman Gilmore, when is this meeting? Councilman Sala, who exited the room, said he would work on an addition to Ordinance 260. What actionable progress has been made? Countless tenants are suffering and will suffer from the non-enforcement of Ordinance 260 by the city. This harmful process is left to the tenants to prove that their landlord is exempt or not exempt from rent control. As we have seen, this process is not truthful, does not follow written law, and has caused countless Jersey City residents to upend their lives. What is the point of having a written law to follow? Council, you have the power to reduce this hardship and burden on us. You can do two things. One, create an ordinance that calls for a stay on rent increases in the presence of an ongoing rent control dispute where required documentation, such as a filing, are lacking. You all know there is no proof of filing by Equity to Jersey City. You all know Equity and Jersey City are delaying us justice and are causing us all daily hardship. You can adopt and sign the forms created by our team that clearly lay out the requirements for rent control exemption. Publicly adopt it or publicly defend why you won't. Someday you may need to defend your actions in a court of law, real law. So what's it going to be? Tomorrow, someone else will suffer under your watch, but they don't have to. You have the ability to fix this. No filing, no exemption. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, 5.29, Eric Meyer.
Dear council members, my name is Eric Meyer and I'm a Portside Tower West tenant. I would like to tell a story of how I envision your predecessors in the city council made a wise decision when they enacted rent control regulation. I think their motivation was to improve the quality of life for this community, a phrase that is repeatedly referred to in the Jersey City's master plan. Maybe they could see that in the future, not all landlords would have roots in Jersey City and care for both profit and the local community. Maybe they foresaw that big national multi-billion companies would dominate as landlords and only care about balancing profit with greed. Maybe they even pictured how all these big companies would coordinate their rent with a software that would give them monopoly and squeeze out even more profit. Maybe they realized that if the Federal Reserve considers that the general price increase should be limited to 2%, then a rent ceiling of 4% should be more than enough to cover their profit. Today, the inflation is high, and one of the main forces behind the core inflation is housing costs driven by rent increases from these big companies. This affects everyone in our community, not just renters. When the Federal Reserve increases their interest rates, homeowners get increased mortgage rates in the end as well, even council members. My family wants to settle down here. We love this community. We first live in Newport. The 2 consecutive yearly 10% rent increases forced us to move. The same seems to happen again. The total increase of the last few years totals 28%. Others have even higher. Now we fear we have to move again next time our lease is up for renewal. How can we and other renters set roots and thrive in this community facing these ridiculous rent increases? It's time for the city to enforce its existing rent control regulation and improve the quality of life for all of Jersey City's residents. Are you here to care for the interests of your constituents or to care for the profit margins to big corporations? Thank you, council members, for listening to us today. No fouling, no extension.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next speaker, 5.30, Mark Bowles.
Good morning. Good evening. Good evening.
Good.
I'm Mark Boyles. My wife and I are seniors who live in Portside. 2 weeks ago, I described to you how the rent control petition was effectively dismissed by the rent leveling administrator when she wrote that, quote, "To date, no letter to the construction code official in connection with the requested exemption from rent control has been located, but that does not mean one was not sent," unquote. 2 weeks back, I called this the dog ate my homework excuse. An analogy might be the case where a manufacturer offers a 10-year warranty if you send in the registration card. Well, interesting. In fact, when I need warranty and the manufacturer can't find the card, do I get my 10-year warranty or not? They can't find it, so perhaps not. Would the absence of appropriate documentation stand up in a court of law? No, it wouldn't. The assumption that a document or letter may have been sent is not affirmative evidence. In the rent control case, neither the city nor the Portside property owners have located the exemption request letter, and there's no document on the acknowledgement and assignment of exemption that's normal for such requests. In fact, the 2 Portside towers were never assigned rent control exemption certificates nor certificate numbers. This proves that any rent control exemptions for Portside do not and have never existed. No case for exemption can be established, and the default position is that both Portside towers are and have always been rent controlled. Jersey City has a new rent leveling administrator with the power and the duty to revise any determinations that are wrong. I expect Director Richardson to follow the law and issue a corrected determination on the rent control status of the Portside buildings. If he will not do the right thing and sign an appropriate document reversing the situation, I urge Jersey City to adopt the new mission statement that, landlords, we are here for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, 5.31, Jessica Braun.
Madam President and the city council members, I've said before that I was a scientist and I did a little research ahead of this particular meeting. And I found some really interesting things. I will say that Stephen Phillips, Jersey City-based machine administration, is inextricably embedded in a corrupt and complex network of developers, investors, and political operatives. He received support from a super PAC called Coalition for Progress, which receives donations from major developers in our city and region, including Iron State Development Company. Iron State Development is run by 2 brothers, Dave and Michael Barry. Guess who their father is? You heard the name earlier, a man named Joe Barry, who was president of Applied Company when it was involved in the building of my home, Portside East. His son Dave Barry asserts on his LinkedIn profile today that he's now president of Applied. Joe Barry and his sons collaborate on many properties in our area, including one in Hoboken called the Shipyard. And in 2004, Joe Barry was sentenced to 25 months in prison for giving nearly $115,000 in payoffs to the Hudson County executive at the time, who helped Joe obtain government funding to help build that project. Joe Barry was also a signatory on the agreement that transferred the 2 Portside towers to Equity Residential in 1998. Stephen Follett maintains ties with the Barry family and has ushered in an explosion of development projects of theirs in Jersey City, including Liberty Harbor, Irby Towers, the Columbus Collection, and Lafayette at 100 Monitor Street. We said all along, no filing, no exemption. I think we all have no doubt at this point whether required and proper filing ever occurred for either tower. They did not occur, and as such should be subject to Ordinance 260. It seems straightforward and on paper easy to rectify. Yet corruption is standing in the way of making this situation right for the tenants at Portside, and others in our city are suffering. We have to wonder why. And as usual, let's follow the money. If Equity bought the 2 Portside towers under the impression the towers were rent controlled, were exempt from rent control, they would reap profits at the expense of the law and by the tenants. If Jersey City were to enforce rent control for us, the bill Equity would have to pay is in the tens to hundreds of millions. Do you suppose that Equity would come after the city and maybe even the developers that sold them the property, the same developers who were in best buddies with the mayor? You can find pictures online. Before joining the Fulop administration, Dinah Hendon was a well-respected lawyer at Waterfront. Then she became the RLA for Jersey City and didn't enforce 260. What happened? Pastor Chiron Richardson, you've accepted the position. Please stand strong, withstand the pressure and the corruption.
Thank you. Next speaker, 5.32, Rita Botelho. Rita?
Madam President and council members, I'm here again to press on you to do the right thing. As you can probably tell, I'm still uncomfortable with public speaking, but I force myself to step outside my comfort zone in the name of justice. It's not always easy or comfortable to do the right thing. We're living in a very narcissistic, profit over people society. There is no longer the desire to be of good character or moral. People of good ethics and moral compass are becoming fewer. Imagine where society will be in the coming years, if there are even less of us. If those of us who are clinging to justice and ethics start to give up hope and succumb to the same attitudes. We all have a responsibility to future generations to demonstrate and live according to the world we want to live in. Don't you have children and grandchildren you want to live in a fair world? In a world where doing the right thing is rewarded? Your decision today doesn't just impact us, but eventually your children and grandchildren. They too will find themselves one day on the street because someone else was willing to pay more and there was nobody there to stop them. You may think this won't happen to you, but it can and will, if not to you, but to your family. I didn't think it could happen to me, but it has. My sister and I, we did all the right things. We paid rent on time regardless of our circumstances. We didn't complain when things went wrong in a building because we genuinely believed they would get fixed. We spent 18 years in this building and community only to be thrown to the curb like trash. We now rely on family and friends for a roof over our head while we wait for someone to do the right thing, hoping that one day we can return to our community, to our church, and to our friends. When will doing the right thing count for something? My sister and I have done the right things, and yet Portside has not, and here we are pleading our case in front of you. We're hoping that you, Madam President, and council members stand for what's right, not what's profitable. That we want to live and create a world for you and your family that stands for good character and conduct. Someone needs to pave the way. We truly hope that it will be you. Please don't let us lose hope that doing the right thing actually counts for something. I'd also like to invite Portside Tower stands with 102 York Street, where the owner did not file a claim for exemption prior to completion of construction. I invite any tenants at 102 York Street to contact for proof you will need to win rent rollbacks, rent rebates, and trouble damages. We have obtained documentation that supports your building has legally been subject to rent control since January 1st, 2015. Please contact us at rentcontroljerseycity@gmail.com so we can help you submit your petition. Thank you. No file, no exemption.
Next speaker, 5.33, Charles Duva. Not here? Thank you. Next, 5.34, Sarah Levine.
Hello. My name is Sarah Levine, and I am a Jersey City tenant. I am also a Jersey City native, born and raised in the Heights, and an alumna of Jersey City Public Schools. I am here in my personal capacity, but in my day job, I practice labor and civil rights law. I'm here to support portside tenants and to draw your attention to a growing problem. For context, in Jersey City, rent control is a default rule for all buildings with 5 or more units. There are a few common sense exceptions like hotels and public housing developments, but beyond that, a building may be exempt from rent control in 2 circumstances. 1, if it is a new building in a redevelopment zone, and 2, as you know well by this point, if it is a building constructed after June 1987, where the owner filed a compliant exemption filing prior to the issuance of a COO. With that in mind, a few months ago, I filed an Oprah request for every rent control exemption filing in Jersey City since 1987. After a lot of back and forth, last week I received a production with the entire universe of responsive documents. I am here to share with you that by this city's own report, there are 128 exemption filings for the entire city. 128. I have made those filings publicly accessible at bit.ly, that's bit.ly/JC260 filings. Now, I don't know the difference between the number 128 and the number of buildings in Jersey City that are not in a redevelopment zone, that are not a public housing development or hotel, that have charged their tenants for rent increases in violation of rent control laws. But if I had to bet, I would say that in a city of close to 300,000 people with over 30,000 buildings, where the average rent is over $5,500 per month, that number is very, very high. And whatever that number is, it corresponds to an even higher number of people who have been illegally overcharged, likely for years, and perhaps evicted on that basis. This problem is not going away. There is a growing coalition of tenants in Jersey City, exemplified by Portside and by the Jersey City DSA, who recently organized a tenants town hall. And that coalition is knocking on doors in buildings that are outside of redevelopment areas that do not have exemptions and that have been overcharging their tenants. That said, I am here to urge you to pass an ordinance requiring transparency about which buildings claim any rent control exemption and on what basis. You can compel the creation of a public searchable database where any tenant can identify their building, learn its status, and know their rights. Please use your authority to empower tenants with information so that they can advocate for themselves. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, 5.35, Joel Rothfuss. Joel?
Hello, I'm Joel Rothfuss. I'm a resident, 100 Warren Street. President Waterman and members of the Jersey City Municipal Council. I've been listening to you and my neighbors and residents of Jersey City this evening. The terms transparency, collaboration, leadership, and accountability have been repeated and repeated. Commissioner Romano suggested that Jersey City help people welcome to Jersey City. I wish we would also say, and we hope you stay here a long time. We can't do that with these incredibly insane rent increases. This can only be accomplished by enforcing all housing ordinances and especially rent control. Again, transparency, collaboration, leadership, and accountability. Kevin Weller has proposed a very simple form to help Pastor Richardson, a man with little prior experience in housing, to enforce the ordinance that he has been tasked to enforce. What leadership does he have, or does he require to help him do that? In any event, simplifying a form will help. This collaborative effort will help the city and should be welcomed with open arms. This goes along with Commissioner Solomon's earlier work towards a database, and it's been repeated here many times also. How can we find out what our rights are without access to the facts? This would greatly enhance transparency. Transparency would help the city and its residents. Failing to improve transparency in the landlord-tenant office is a failure of leadership of the council, of the mayor, and of the landlord tenant offices department. Again, if we have that failure of leadership so far, where is the accountability? I believe that you all have accountability. The mayor has accountability. We all have accountability. Transparency, collaboration, leadership, and accountability. That's what we're asking for. Thank you.
Next speaker, 5.36, Jessica Razula.
Hello again. My name is Jessica Rasulo. I'm the proud mom of two wonderful children who I'm raising to be active members of our amazing Jersey City community. Portside Towers has been our home for 9+ years. I live at 100 Warren Street, where there was no filing of a claim of rent control exemption at least 30 days prior to the issuance of our certificate of occupancy. No filing, no exemption. Despite not meeting the requirements of Jersey City Ordinance 260-6C or the New Jersey statute, the landlord-tenant office has allowed an exemption to rent control for 30 years. My fellow tenants have had their leases renewed at upwards of 30% due to this flawed exemption. This is on top of previous years' double-digit increases. The Jersey City office, which exists according to the Jersey City Ordinance to enforce rent control, allows our landlord an exemption from rent control despite their failure to meet the requirements. The landlord-tenant office had the opportunity to right this wrong with the appointment of Pastor Chiron Richardson as the new rent leveling administrator. However, Pastor Richardson, a man of faith, a man of God, a man appointed by Mayor Fulop, has chosen to disregard the law. Last Friday, Director Richardson invited us to submit a supplement for his review, but only if we delivered it by first thing Monday morning. After 9 months documenting the correct position, our team had 48 hours, some with only 2 hours for sleep and 2 for church, preparing the supplement for his benefit. Every prior supplement had received a full week of review by the landlord-tenant office under Dinah Hendon, and then we were given at least a week to respond. This time, after a mere 3 hours, Pastor Richardson dismissed it and gave us only a few days to submit our appeal. Yet he did say, in writing, it appears that the tenants have a reasonable case for appeal. Well, do something about it, Director. It is his job to enforce 260. Director Richardson has an obligation to address the points we brought to his attention. Nobody is above the law, except in Jersey City. Why? Why is Jersey City trying to be the first in the history of New Jersey to allow illegal rents? Why? I ask again, why is Jersey City continuing to support large corporations over your constituents? Expectation is that Mayor Fulop has decided not to run for mayor again to pursue the governorship. Is this the New Jersey we should expect under his leadership? It may be corporations that fund you, Mayor Fulop, but it's the people who elect you and the people you are supposed to represent. Follow the law, no filing, no exemption. Any other Jersey City tenants looking to join the fight to protect our rights, please email rentcontroljc@gmail.com. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, 5.37, Danilo Kirshner. Danilo, did I have that right?
Almost.
Sorry, good.
No, that's okay. Good evening. I'm Danilo Kirschner. I'm originally from Germany and moved together with my wife to Jersey City and to Portside Towers 9 years ago. Obviously, we love to live in Jersey City. But at the same time, knowing from Germany how rent protection can work successfully for decades, we are astounded how little is done here in Jersey City for the people, despite laws in existence. Just 2 examples with regards to Portside Towers. Equity residential claims both towers have had exemption from rent control since construction. With the exception of Portside West, which became rent control August 22, they even tried to fight this. At the same time, Equity Residential filed annually landlord registration statements for both towers combined in 2020 and 21. For Portside West in February 2022, saying yes to the question, is the property you are registering currently under rent control? So which is it? Why did the city accept these filings without enforcing rent control? How come that in the years prior to 2022, both buildings were filed as one and the same property. And from 22 on, they were suddenly treated differently. Second example, Griffin Alexander, the law firm representing Portside, states in the response to our rent appeal, I quote, Portside Towers has provided the appropriate documentation to qualify for rent control exemption. Why was the documentation never produced? Why is the city placing the burden on tenants when the law is clear that the burden is on the landlord to produce the proof of exemption? You heard about the outrageous rent raises in the last years. And that is while tenants are regularly impacted by elevators that do not work, false fire alarms, water intrusions, cockroaches, malfunctioning vents in bathrooms and kitchens. These discrepancies have been known to you, to the City Council, for many months now. It's your job and your duty of service to represent the people of Jersey City, 72% of which are renters. I'm astonished that our questions are still unanswered. So let me repeat a couple of them for you. Why does the city refuse to acknowledge that both Portside Towers buildings should be under rent control because no filing of exemption exists? When will the city look into the safety and health concerns that exist at the same time? And why did Pastor Richardson in his new role not set the record straight and issue his own determinations? Instead, he states that he is not doing that and therefore supporting the breach of law.
Thank you.
No filing, no exemption.
Thank you. God bless you. Next speaker, 5.38, Sonja Kirshner.
My husband. My name is Sonja Kirschner. You hear it also from my accent. I'm not American. I'm also German, and I came here for my job 9 years ago. My husband and I moved into the West Tower of Portside in February 2014. It was meant to be for 3 years. What can I say? We really must love this city because we stayed. Jersey City became our second home away from home. A home that's for sure not perfect. We have leaks, cockroaches, countless elevator failures. Fire alarms are frequent, and we never know if they are actually legit. That means we often don't exactly know if our lives are in danger or not. And yet, we love our home and living with people from all around the world. At the same time, we wonder how it's even possible for our landlord, Equity Residential, to get away with that many failures, damages, health threat, and let me, as a psychologist, also say significant mental stress in our community. We were wondering about that long before anyone was even talking about 260 rent control or such things. And yet, it's a reoccurring headline that comes to my mind when I think about our community, when I think about Jersey City and the US. Things are quite ambiguous here right now. One thing that I really love here is the American confidence. I see the mayor in a wetsuit jumping in the Hudson River. I see proud posts about Jersey City's accomplishments, and I see headlines about Jersey City being the most diverse in the country. But is there really so much to be proud of? Listening to the people here before, I'm also asking, how diverse can a city be or stay if it's also the most expensive one in the country for renters, so for 72% of its population? How protected are its citizens by laws that were made to ensure that this is a place for all, while these laws are not enforced? How can it be that you've been placing the burden of overcoming unlawful determinations on us, the tenants, and not on the landlord as the law foresees? You, the representatives of the city, and Pastor Richardson have the power to fix this. This country used to be viewed as an exemplary democracy, providing safety and comfort for everyone, for immigrants. They arrived only a few feet from here. This is where homes were made and still are created. What are you doing for them today? You cannot lose my vote. I'm not allowed to vote here. What you can lose, though, is your ability to look in the mirror and the taxes of people who choose this place. I live in the West Tower.
Sorry.
I stand here in solidarity with everyone because
Thank
this
you.
is how
Thank you.
democracy is made by people.
Thank you. Next speaker, 5.39, Alyssa Ladas.
Hello, my name's Alyssa Lattis, and I'm a resident at 155 Washington Street, Portside Apartments. We are now currently 239 days from our original petition for rent control. Dinah Heaton's September 25th ruling on the non-enforcement of rent control has so emboldened equity that in my most recent lease renewal, it included a rent control addendum. In it, it stated, quote, "We hereby notify you that these premises and the community is exempt from the provisions of any rent control ordinance is instituted by Jersey City. And the premises and the community will be exempt from any future rent control and rent stabilization or rent leveling ordinances instituted by these municipalities," end quote. What? Equity, you have placed so much power in Equity's hand that they literally think they are above your municipality. They are literally telling me they are above your law of any type of rent control enforcement. The new tenant administrator had an opportunity to rectify this determination, but instead he has chosen to not act. Pastor Chiron Richardson, by this inaction, is further perpetuating the entire broken system by actively joining in the refusal to enforce Ordinance 260. We all know this is a broken system, but your constituents, need people that have the guts to actually enforce the ordinance, the laws that exist to protect us. Pastor Chiron Richardson, you have failed us so far in your job to enforce 260, the very item that the city budget is paying you to perform. And all of us currently standing behind you are contributing towards in some way with our tax-paying money. As a Portside Tenant Association, we've developed a simple two-page form. The council has a power to put this to a vote, and we are calling for that vote. Additionally, I want to call on Director Richardson to sign the form or to publicly defend why he won't, since his very job exists to enforce this ordinance. I will end with the same question I asked on November 28th, 57 days ago. Why are you continuing to empower and prioritize large corporate landlords over your constituent? And how long are you going to force thousands to wait for justice to be delivered as they are adversely affected by this ruling? Do better and enforce Ordinance 260. No filing, no exemption.
Thank you.
Next, 5.40, Dina Beloga.
Congratulations. Yes, I'm Dina Beloga. This is not my first time speaking here. I think along with most of us, I would prefer to be home at this hour. And yet we're here and we're going to keep coming back here in order to ask everyone to do the right thing to enforce the law. I see every single time that I've been here, the group is growing. Our neighbors are growing. Research is being done to uncover unlawful rent increases and an unenforcement of the rent control law. We're not going anywhere. And I think until the right thing is done, these nights are going to get longer. We're asking you, Pastor Richardson, and government in general here in Jersey City to enforce the law. As we continue to do research, we're uncovering additional properties that are subject to the law, and we're here to support our neighbors in doing the research and filing the appropriate petitions. There are two additional addresses that I'd like to call out. Portside Towers stands with 76 to 78 Palisades Avenue, where the owner did not file a claim of exemption prior to completion of construction. And I invite any tenant at 76, 78 Palisade Avenue to contact us for the proof that you'll need to rent rollbacks and rent rebates and treble damages. We have obtained documentation that supports your building has been legally subject to rent control since June 16th of 2015. We also are calling out Portside Towers stands with 148 First Street, where the owner did not file a similar claim of exemption prior to completion of construction. And I invite any tenant of 148 First Street to contact us for the proof that they will need to rent rollbacks, rent rebates, and treble damages. We have obtained documentation that supports that this building has been legally subject to rent control since January 30th, 2015. Please contact us at rentcontroljc@gmail.com so we can help both of these property residents submit their petitions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next, 5.41, Michelle Hirsch.
Hello.
Hello.
I have two words of the day: corrupt, defined as marked by immorality and perversion, and obfuscate, defined as to make so confused or opaque as to be difficult to perceive or understand. I'll start with corrupt as it relates to New Jersey's bid rig case. The Gawker headline on July 23rd, 2009, "Everybody in New Jersey was arrested today." Here's a summary of that article. Federal prosecutors unveiled a mammoth corruption and money laundering investigation in New Jersey today, arresting 44 people, including mayors of Hoboken, Secaucus, and Ridgefield, 2 assemblymen, and 5 rabbis. It was the biggest arrest of its kind, and while several high-profile politicians were jailed, it has not served as the deterrent to corruption many hoped it would. And here's the other word: obfuscate. This is the word that a seasoned landlord-tenant attorney familiar with the practices employed by Jersey City administration used when trying to explain to me why getting the city to admit that both buildings at Portside Towers have never been exempt from rent control would be an uphill battle, and a battle it has become. It's no coincidence that I've chosen corrupt and obfuscate as the words of the day. It is a known fact across the globe that where there is obfuscation or lack of transparency in government, there is corruption. So let's connect this to our current battle for the enforcement of Chapter 260. The current determinations for our buildings at Portside do not comport with the law. They are rife with obfuscations, and to not correct them at best gives the perception of impropriety. At worst, corruption is at play. Pastor Richardson, I mean this sincerely. My heart hurts for you. You're in a terrible position that I don't envy. The stark reality is that you risk losing so much before you've even completed 1 month of your service. You have the rent control determination form that was created for good. That form is 100% based on law. It will guide any user, including you, to a correct determination for any building in Jersey City. I shared the form for feedback with a rent leveling board commissioner from another municipality. Their reaction, quote, it's insane not to approve the form. Otherwise, it's saying they're okay with blanket violations of New Jersey state law. Pastor Richardson, no amount of money is going to buy back your reputation and the trust of Jersey City citizens that will be decimated if you perpetuate the obfuscations that were purposefully written into our determinations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, 5.42, Ron Batista.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ron Bautista. I'm running for Hudson County Commissioner, and this is exactly why I don't take any money from real estate developers. I'm here to stand with Portside Towers tenants and join the movement of all Jersey City tenants who, meeting after meeting, have come to ask City Hall to enforce rent control. This didn't start today, and this happens way too often. Everyday people having to come and push their officials to do the right thing just shows the failure of our local governments. Everyday people shouldn't have to do this, but here we are, and this movement is only getting stronger. You've heard all the stories. They speak for themselves. What we need is action now. We ask you to have a meeting, an open meeting between the tenants, council members, and Director Richardson. Enforcing Ordinance 260 is urgent to the livelihoods of tenants. We ask you to create an ordinance that calls for a hold on rent increases in the presence of an ongoing rent control dispute, because that wears out the tenants. Y para la comunidad latina de Jersey City, ustedes no están solos. Si les están subiendo el alquiler de 15 o 30%, envíen un email a rentcontroljc@gmail.com. No filing, no exception.
Thank you.
Next speaker, 5.43, Wyron Bowling.
Hi, my name is Ryan. I live in Ward A. This is not what I came to talk about tonight, but I just want to say how impressed I am by this group of tenants the solidarity that they've shown fighting for their legal rights. It's really inspiring, and it's great to see here. What I came to talk about tonight was Amy DeGees and her conflicts of interest she shows with regards to her constituents. When Amy DeGees fled the scene of her collision with Andrew Black, in defiance of a clear-cut legal and ethical imperative, she prioritized her own self-interests ahead of a city resident. For all she knew, he could have been seriously injured or dead, but she chose herself. In the months since, she has not offered an explanation for her actions that day. She falsely claimed in her official statement yesterday that she was required to maintain her silence during her legal proceedings. There was absolutely no such requirement for silence. She stayed silent, I assume on the advice of her legal counsel, to help her odds in her case, to minimize the legal consequences of her own actions. But that isn't a get out of explanation free card. Once again, she put her own interests ahead of the residents of this city. Strike two. Amy DeGees owes the people of this city answers. Did she realize that she collided with Andrew Black? If so, why didn't she stop? Most importantly, why did she wait 6 full hours to turn herself in? What happened during those 6 hours? Now that she is free from their self-imposed gag order, she should be able to answer these simple questions. None of them were addressed in her statement, in which we merely learned that she made a mistake. If she fails to answer these questions now, she is once again, for a third time, putting her own interests ahead of the residents of this city. How can we trust her not to put herself ahead of her constituents every single day that she sits on this council? The members of the council who have not called for her resignation. I get it. It's a political calculus. There are benefits to sticking by her and her family, and there are costs to your reputation, and you have made a choice on the costs and benefits there. But I just want to say that I believe you're making the wrong choice. People care about this. I was out at the All About Jersey City, All About Downtown in September, talking to people about this. And you've all ran for office. You know what it's like to try to collect signatures, to talk to people who are just want to be out, have a good time, have fun. I have never had an easier time talking to people. People were lining up to talk to me because I had a sign with this picture that we've all seen. You do not want your names associated with this picture politically. You're making the wrong choice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, 5.44, Jaden Hernandez.
Hello, City Council. I'm here today to represent 164 Clinton Avenue. I'm a Jersey City resident. As Americans, it is our inherent responsibility to defend our rights, that these issues regarding the housing crisis are dealt with in a fair system of justice. It is our duty to recognize these systems in place which have oppressed the hardworking middle class that has been gradually disappearing in this modern era. Since the birth of this nation, the people have faced a loss of liberty at the hands of the corporate entities and elites, as I have seen our systems in place that have consciously neglected and ignored specific communities while completely renovating others. Meanwhile, the privileged pockets overflow with wealth as more people in my community suffer on newly paved cement as government officials turn a blind eye to these issues. Alternatively, many people are in fear of speaking out, as we have seen other activists be outspoken and get slaughtered for a grand spectacle to instill terror in the hearts of my people. Our right to counsel is our Sixth Amendment right, backed by the Supreme Court decision Gideon versus Wainwright, to preserve the fundamental presumption of innocent while proven guilty. These resources allow us to fight back against the deeply corrupt systems of oppression while paving the way for a brighter future of tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, 5.45, Daniel Grunta.
President, council members, thank you for having me. I'll be brief. Came tonight, this evening, to ask the council to intercede and compel the directors and department heads involved with our unicorn and icon timekeeping system to resolve all outstanding issues regarding compensation to affected employees, city employees, within a timely period. I can only speak of what I have witnessed from short paid hours, unpaid hours, missed, lost deductions that have not landed into accounts. One person in particular got a garnishment on their paycheck that never existed before. So far, the new system rollout has been troublesome and a financial burden to the city employees, and I'm sure to the city itself. There's ample time provided to set this system up, migrate employee information into that database, and roll it out. I'm asking for a review by the council to recommend to either enhance the system to settle these problems, or to abandon it before it turns into a larger problem. We should have a payroll system that fits our needs for the city workers and not fit into a parameter of a vendor and the way they set up their system. We're paying for it. We should be able to have it made to fit our way and be able to be compensated correctly. There's not much more I have to say about it. I do have some information. If you'd like, I could either email it to you to expand on that, the rotational schedule, how we're paid, and how that's not working out for us right now. Other than that, I'll leave it to you to review, and if you could suggest recommendations to the department heads who need to take care of this. Thank
Want to email it to each, you want to email it to us?
you. Sure.
The quickest.
I'll scan it down and,
Right.
okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, folks.
Okay, our next speaker, 5.46, Tom Moran.
Thanks much for the chance. I live in Jersey City over on Parkview Avenue, and I write about politics for the Star Ledger. And I have some of the same questions out of desperation, unable to get some answers on a few things, so I thought I'd come here. We were told after the hit and run crash by Councilman DeGise in July that she couldn't talk and others were reluctant to talk because the legal proceeding was underway. That's done now. My question is, the councilwoman, why did you leave? Did the police ask you about that? Why did you leave? Why did you wait 6 hours to come and report it? And did the police ask about that? And the reason I ask this is because it's reasonable to suspect that drugs or alcohol was involved and that you needed 6 hours to clean out your system. I know I don't have any facts to support that, but that's pretty much the point. There was no way to do a sobriety test when you left. So the second question I have is for the other members of the council. Now that this is established, do any of you, other of you, believe she should resign other than Councilman Solomon and Gilmore. Did you, I've been talking to your lawyer and your spokesperson, so they all have my number if you want to call tomorrow.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Kim Nieves.
Good evening, Council President and members of the City Council.
Good evening.
My name is Kim Nieves. I am speaking here tonight as an employee of the City of Jersey City and in my capacity as First Vice President of Local Union 246 on behalf of our members who have been affected as a result of the city's ongoing payroll debacle and use of the unicorn system. As a result, members of 246, employees of the city, have suffered great losses, not receiving their pay, improper deductions being taken from their pay, not being paid in accordance with hours worked, and not being properly paid for overtime. These are among the many issues our members are facing, all in detriment to them. This is a violation of labor laws relating to payment of wages. According to the Act, employers must pay wages to all employees in full at least twice a calendar month. Payment shall be made on regular pay days designated in advance. All employers shall notify employees at time of hiring the rate of pay and the regular pay day. Notify employees of changes in pay rates or pay days prior to the change. Furnish each employee with statement of deduction each pay period. Make and keep records for employees, including wages and hours, and make such records available for inspection. I'm going to keep this brief. I'm just requesting the city rectify this situation and make the members whole for losses they may have suffered and continue to suffer due to untimely and/or improper compensation by the city for work performed by its employees, our members. The unicorn system is faulty and its use should be reevaluated and/or discontinued. However the city proceeds, employees need to be immediately made whole and be provided with already overdue proper compensation. Thank you for your courtesies and consideration. And I understand that Council President Waterman acknowledged and said that you're working on it. So I'd like to thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Romano spoke earlier. 5.49, Carl Schemmel. Call. Is Call here? Okay, not on your speakers list. There are two more that signed up before. 5.50, Tanya Golden. Tanya? Is she here? Tanya?
Tanya. Tanya.
Mine is short because I didn't think I made the list. My issue is with, again, pay for parking enforcement. I'm aware of some of the things that are being implemented where they're trying to fix our paychecks. But for myself, I only make minimum wage like most people at parking enforcement. And I'm a homeowner. So my taxes also went up, where I am now paying a $1,700 mortgage with minimum wage. And I was also introduced to a water bill, which I used to pay every 3 months, that I am now paying once a month. I'm afraid, you know, I could actually lose my house from a water bill. I don't know who decided that That was a great idea for every month, but it's really a hardship on me. I am a widow and I work for the city. My son is a police officer who works for the city. My sister is also a crossing guard who works for the city. We can't afford to live in a city that we work for. And someone needs to look deep down and think about the people who are making $20 an hour with a $1,700 mortgage. A water bill that I used to pay $200 every 3 months. Now I'm looking at it every month. It looks like $200. I can't survive. I need your help. And that's all I have to say. But please consider the poor people, because that's what we are. We are poor people and we are about to lose our homes. And that's all I have. I have my home. I go to work. I do 10 hours a day. And I have to do Sundays when I would rather be in church. But that's the only way I can afford to pay my bills. So once again, please consider a $1,700 mortgage, $20 being paid out. And right now, I'm doing overtime, which I have not been paid for. And I had to figure out on Sunday, should I do the overtime or not? Should I miss church or not? I had a good supervisor that Sunday who allowed me my hour lunch. I was able to still go to church and still make my overtime. But please look at it. And thank you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya.
And our last speaker listed, 5.51, Andrew LaBruno. I think he left. Okay, that concludes our speakers list.
Through
the.
Want to say something?
Thank you, Madam President. Just want to let the residents of Portside Towers know that we appreciate you coming here and airing out, your grievances to the city council. I want you to know that this city council does take your concerns seriously. We have submitted proposed legislation, and we're currently looking at this legislation, and I'm going to go over a few of them right here, right now, just to let you know what is happening behind the scenes. Obviously, it's a process. So we're going to work together on this as a city council so that we put a comprehensive package that we can all vote on and pass hopefully sooner rather than later. The first part is the public database with the rent control exemptions and also rent controlled buildings. We'll have a map, easily searchable. We want the HEDC department to maintain it. So that's one idea. Then freezing the rent and making it illegal if there is a dispute that is submitted to the landlord tenant office, that the rent stops going up, that you can't continue to increase the rent. The current scheme that happens is you're supposed to pay the rental increase, and then on the back end, maybe later on, once everything's been adjudicated, then you might get a rebate, but that's cold comfort to people who can't afford, to pay that rental increase. So this measure would stop the rental increase from happening if there is a dispute until it's adjudicated. And then, once it's winded its way through the city system, you're supposed to put that in escrow, obviously. The other idea is to tighten penalties and fines for submitting false information, to that office. You have to file and submit the mortgage note, or it will be considered deficient and you won't be able to take advantage of the rent control exemption. You have to file it annually. You're going to have to give notice to all the tenants, and it's similar to a tax credit
If you don't file for it, you're not gonna be, take advantage of the exemption. The 5% inflation, 5%, increase plus inflation is gonna be the cap, but obviously some of these ideas have to go through the state level, so you won't be able to increase it by more than 5% over the inflation amount for non-owner occupied buildings. And then statewide, they're also looking at removing the 30-year exemption, which we should put a resolution forward in support of. We also are looking at standardizing the form that you gave to us. So we have submitted that as well. So all of these are proposals that we've put forward, and I know the council is looking at even more proposals to tighten this up. And for any landlord or, firm that thinks that they're above the law and that we have no appetite to take this on, the city council, and I speak for myself, but I also feel like I speak for the rest of the city council, that we are ready and we have, we're gonna be the hammer and they're gonna be the nail. So thank you.
I hope you guys understand, these are just proposals. This is nothing written in stone yet. I just want to make it clear. This is nothing written in stone yet. This is proposal. I don't want y'all to come back and say, no, he said y'all was going to do this. I just want to make it clear. These are proposals and there has to be discussion with the council, and I can tell you it will be a process. So what I would encourage you to do too is to move forward with the next step. What you guys have to do. If y'all disagree with the decision, then move forward with the next step. We will do our part as far as trying to get decent legislation, all right? And based on what Councilman said, some of it is state, okay? Some of it is state too, okay? So we cannot, override the state, but I can suggest to you, you should look also at your state officials. They need to be a part of this too, for the change really to happen, okay? Thank you. We appreciate y'all coming out.
We don't want you to think we're not doing anything. That's why we're all working on it, okay?
Go ahead, Sean.
Okay. On to our petitions and communications. Any questions or comments on items 6.1 through 6.25? Hearing none, we only have one office communication. Any questions or comments on that one? Hearing none. Report of directors 8.1 through 8.2. Any questions or comments? If we can just leave quietly, I appreciate it. We still got to conduct the rest of the business of the municipal council meeting. Thank you. Claims, we're going to go on to the claims and addendums number 1, 2, and 3. Council members, so I'll be taking a vote on claims and addendums number 1, 2, and 3. Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Baggiano. Councilperson Saleh.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson Gilmore.
Aye.
Councilperson DeGise. And Council President Waterman. Claims and addendums number 1, 2, and 3 are approved 8-0 with Councilperson Rivera absent. Okay, council members, I'm moving on to resolutions. I'm going to be taking a vote on items 10.1 through 10.11. Again, that's 10.1 through 10.11. Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Baggiano. Councilperson Saleh.
10-3, I abstain. The rest, aye.
Thank you. Councilperson Solomon.
Aye on all.
Councilperson Gilmore.
Aye.
Councilperson DeGise. And Council President Waterman. Sorry. Okay. Items 10.1 through 10.2 are approved 8-0 with Councilperson Rivera absent. Item 10.3 is approved 7-0-1 with Councilperson Saleh abstaining. And items 10.4 through 10.11 are approved 8-0 with Councilperson Rivera absent. Okay, on to our next set of resolutions, items 10.12 through 10.22. Again, that's items 10.12 through 10.22. Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Bajano. Is your mic on?
No on 17 and no on 18. And
No on 1017 and 1018, and aye on all the rest?
yes,
Thank you. Councilperson Saleh.
Aye for all.
Councilperson Solomon.
No on 17, aye on the rest. But just on 10-15, I think willing to hear this plan out, but I don't think it's good practice for this developer to present this before speaking to any member of the council. So we'll see what they come up with, but I think they should, do both community and elected official outreach, which they've done either of. And aye on all the rest.
Thank you. Councilperson Gilmore.
22, Sean?
Yes, we're going from 10.12 to 10.22.
Aye.
Okay, Councilperson DeGise. And Council President Waterman. Righty. If I can just recap, items 10.12 through 10.16 are approved 8-0, with Councilperson Rivera absent. Item 10.17 is approved 6-2, with Council members Bajano and Solomon voting no. Item 10.18 is approved 7-1, with Councilperson Bajano voting no, and both 17 and 18, Councilperson Rivera absent. And items 10.19 through 10.22 are approved 8-0, with Councilperson Rivera absent. The balance of our resolutions, council members, items 10.23 through 10.30. Again, that's the balance of the resolutions, 10.23 through 10.30. Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Bajano.
aye.
Councilperson Saleh.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson Gilmore.
Aye.
Councilperson DeGise.
Aye.
And Council President Waterman. Items 10.23 to 10.30 are approved 8-0, with Councilperson Rivera absent. With hearing nothing else, may I have a motion to adjourn at 8:34 PM?
Motion.
Motion made by Councilperson Saleh. May I have a second? Second by Council President Waterman. On the motion to adjourn at 8:34 PM, Councilperson Ridley. Councilperson Prinzary. Councilperson Bajano. Councilperson Saleh. Councilperson Solomon. Councilperson Gilmore. Councilperson DeGise. And Council President Waterman. Motion carries 8-0, with Councilperson Rivera absent, to adjourn at 8:34 PM. Thank you so much, everyone in attendance and everyone watching at home. Remember, teamwork makes the dream work. Have a great night. Stay safe, everyone.